and thank you for the invitation. And it's really an honor to get the opportunity to talk with you. And actually, I'm really happy that my presentation is after Sara's, because Sara has and Sitra, they have done a really good work with analyzing the sustainable taxation. I actually, she said that one of the most important things is tax certainty, and that is indeed one of the most important things for companies as well, to have a clear visibility of what is coming in the future. Just to briefly tell you about the tech industries of Finland, it's the biggest industry in Finland, and we are responsible for quite a lot of R&D investments. And the tech industries of Finland is not just IT, but we also have this like old industries, so electronics and mechanical engineering and metals and everything. And we have 1,600 member companies. So quite a lot of companies and quite different companies. Talking about sustainable taxation and the future-proof taxation, I feel that it's, of course, sustainable taxation when talking about like green taxation, environmental taxation, energy, and so forth. Of course, it's a really vital part of that, but I would actually like to widen the scope. So it's not just about the green, but it's also about fairness, digital, and global cooperation. And we need to consider these all when trying to figure out what is a future-proof taxation system. And like I say here, taxation is a toolkit. It's not a goal. So companies do not make decisions based on tax. They have some sort of goal, and this should be also the idea when planning tax systems. So if you want less emissions, then you should choose your tax tool according to that. And that is why we need to know the goal before we know what tool to use. TIF, so Tech Industries of Finland, we made this low carbon roadmap last year, and we are fully committed to the fight against climate change and the goals that the Commission and Finland have set to be carbon neutral. And that is why we made this low carbon roadmap, to figure out what needs to be done so that we can reach these goals. And most of the emission reduction methods were dependent on electrification and digitalization. And these are what the elements that we figured that we need, and especially these two. So promoting R&D investments, and of course then we talk about tax incentives and other means to support R&D. And by this I mean R&D that supports these like low carbon solutions. So that is obviously something that we need. And the other thing is energy system with we need to have low emission electricity, and it needs to be competitively priced, because otherwise there is a risk, and this is something that the Commission is also admitting, that there is a risk of carbon leakage in case Europe and Finland and all the member states of EU if they cannot provide this competitively priced electricity, there is a risk that the manufacturing will be located in other countries which are not so sustainable. And of course, this is something, the steady operational environment that is to do with the tax certainty that also Sara mentioned. So we have to have clear visibility of what is coming in the future so that the companies have the time to get ready. And also to have a good environment to function as a company. So to talk a bit about these brackets or parts or elements of sustainable tax systems, like I mentioned, green is obviously one major element, and but it's not just energy and environmental taxation. It's, for example, this talk about digital taxes. If or when electrification and digitalization is something that we really crucially need, then we need to consider whether giving this sort of like a additional tax disincentivizing digitalization, whether that is a reasonable route to take or a direction to take. So it's not just environmental taxation. You have to consider the tax system as a whole system. And our opinion is that when planning taxation, making changes to taxation, the effects to environment should always be considered. So we are in a situation where no legislation could be planned without thinking about the environment. We need to, like I mentioned, R&D tax incentives to support low carbon solutions. And like you can see, global is repeating here, so everything is linked. So when talking about green, we need to talk about global cooperation, and we need to talk about digital and fairness. So we strongly support this, that OECD is starting to talk about the global floor price of carbon. We see that that is a solution to avoid this like carbon leakage and to stay competitive in all the countries and in EU. But something to consider is also that we know that there is a lot of problems with raising tax revenue, but our opinion is that when planning environmental taxation, the main goal or the principle should still be that they are planned from an environmental point of view, because like Sara mentioned, if like a carbon tax is working effectively, it will the revenue will decrease. So less emissions means less tax revenues, and that is why it's hard to use. Like the Commission has said that in their own resources proposal, they are waiting for environmental tax to gather revenues for the EU budget, but the point of view should still be that the environmental taxes are planned from an environmental point of view, so that they would be good legislation and not just trying to optimize the revenues. Of course, we understand that there is a problem that you have to raise the revenues from somewhere, but still, this is something that we need to keep in mind. And where to raise the revenues? In our roadmap, we identified that there is actually a huge export potential for Finnish companies, and of course this is concerns all other countries as well. So Estonia definitely will have or has a potential to grow green export, because all countries are starting to have their own carbon neutral plans. And we are talking about this carbon handprint, and it means emissions lowering global potential. So not talking about just the carbon footprint, what is the effect that the company is leaving, but also the handprint. So how your products and services are helping others to lower their footprint. And we have actually published a service sorry, on our website, and it's a free service for companies to calculate their carbon footprint and their handprint. So I warmly welcome you to check that out. I unfortunately think that it's only in Finnish, but maybe we will get an English one also. Just a sec, my phone died. Okay, sorry, I have, yeah, now it's working. I lost the connection with my slide changer. So the next element is fair. And we do consider that tax systems have to be fair, but the fairness has to be considered on a wide point of view. So you have to consider the whole taxation system. So not just to concentrate on corporate taxation, but also to talk about VAT, energy, environmental taxation, withholding taxation, and everything. If we just concentrate on corporate taxation, we neglect the fact that companies that are not, maybe, for example, if they are investing heavily, and that is why they are not paying corporate income tax some year, they are still paying other taxes. So to consider the tax system as a whole is important. And also fair taxation needs to be considered on a global, member state, company and individual level. So this is also something that needs to have a wide perspective. And for that we need a lot of impact assessments and on current data. So the impact assessments done previously, they are based on info and data that was before the tax system changes that have happened. So like BEPS and the US tax reform and everything. And here again, we need to have long-term predictability and tax certainty. It's absolutely crucial. And our member companies, they always repeatedly say that they are totally okay. When talking about minimum taxation, they are totally okay with paying the 20% or whatever the tax rate is, if it can be ensured that they are paying the tax only once, so that there is no double taxation all the time, not arguments of who is taxing and have you paid 2 times or 3 times and all of that. So if there is certainty that you are paying the right amount of tax, but only once there is certainty that you are compliant, you have paid the correct amount, and preferably with low administrative costs. That would be ideal situation. Actually, now I'm thinking, yeah, I skipped one, which is digital, but it's okay, because actually I mentioned this element just now. So when trying to be fair and to have a certain simple taxation system, we need to go digital in that as well. And companies need to invest in digitalization a lot, like also in green, but digitalization can also be used as a tool to lower compliance costs and to make taxation more like transparent. And we are supporting this digitalization and digital tools which are used in Finnish tax administration. And I have understood that Estonia is very far in this digitalization as well. And our point of view is that Europe should be listening to the small countries who have done a lot of good work in using digital tools in taxation. And this is also linked with fairness and global cooperation, because sometimes removing the element of like different type of analysis and to tax everybody in according to the same rules, so automated and simple taxation, it can be minimizing the tax gap. And we are of course supporting it, that everybody pays their fair share, and that there would be minimal tax gap, and to fight tax evasion. And we find that digital tools in taxation would work good here. And also it would mean that the digital single market, EU, would be better functioning if we could, for example, well, maybe harmonized tax-based calculation, but at least harmonized tax reporting, so that the companies don't have to file in 27 different types of forms and to have difficulties in all countries with the reporting, but to harmonize them and to also enhance real-time economy at the same time. I see that my time is running out, but I still have 2 slides. Actually, the last one is just a brief reminder of links. So global cooperation is a crucial element, like I have mentioned before. So in all taxation, a global solution should be always preferred, because the companies, the business is really globalized, and our members and all Finnish companies are more and more doing global business. So the EU is not enough. The unilateral legislation is not enough. So global tax solutions should be preferred, not just in environmental taxation, but in all taxation. For example, minimum taxation is a good example of this sort of global cooperation work in taxation. And the idea should be to avoid trade tensions as well, and tax dispute resolution and prevention should be a priority. And here is the last slide. So here is a link to our roadmap, and a summary of it, and then the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment, they made a summary of, because Tech Industries of Finland was not the only industry who made this roadmap, but also other industries. So the ministry made a summary about these roadmaps. So that's the link for that. Okay, my time is up. So thank you about that. And please, if you have questions, please do ask.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maria. And we may definitely snap a few minutes from lunchtime, so we can have a discussion still. So no worries. Yeah, I mean, a very forward-looking approach, and I do get that your members, the companies in the Finnish tech industry, that they are all internationally active. Therefore, they are very much in favor of harmonization. Globally, EU-wide, or whatever level is possible. How do you think, will there be a room for competition between tax systems in different countries? Or we should harmonize as much as possible, and the tax competitiveness of different countries is not an issue anymore in the future?
Well, I feel that tax competition, it's not an entirely bad thing, and it's a part of countries' tax sovereignty, so they are entitled to figure out their own tax systems, and that is important, of course. But I feel that some level of harmonization is actually a good thing, for example, with the digitalization of tax reporting. So, of course, it's easier if we have a bit of harmonized rules. It's easier to have these reporting tools and to ease the compliance burden of companies, but of course also the tax administrations. Mm-hmm. So in a way, I would say that some like slide and taking it step by step harmonization is actually a good thing. And our member companies, they definitely see that, for example, the minimum taxation proposal, the Pillar 2 proposal of the OECD, the principal idea is good. But of course, the problem is that at this point, the calculation rules, they are really difficult and burdensome. But if there would be a system to calculate the tax base, well, simple is never possible, but as simple as possible, it would actually be a good thing for the companies as well.
Okay, so I see that probably the focus of the tax competition shifts from the rates to the ease of tax compliance and to the digital solutions. So that's actually, a good point. Coming to the digital solutions, how are your member companies facing the option of real-time taxation, so that the tax authority would pull the data from their accounts, bookkeeping and accounts, and do they see any threats there, or are they somehow frightened, or they are very optimistic towards this prospect?
Yeah, there is a project in the Commission. They are trying to figure out whether there should be or could be a real-time taxation or reporting system for VAT. And I think it's a very interesting project, but the risks are that we would take steps backward. So I know that Estonia is really good with these digitalized tax systems, and Finland has done a lot with these as well. So we are hoping that if there will be some sort of real-time or transaction-based reporting system for VAT and why not other taxation as well, that the Commission would ask for the small countries for advice and to figure out how to do it in a smart way and in a way that would enhance real-time economy and in such a way that companies would benefit from that data as well. So there are possibilities, but also there is a risk that if we go to like a clearance model, which is used in, for example, Italy, where all invoices go from the company to the tax administration system and then back and forth again, we feel that that probably would be too burdensome, and we would like to know that the companies are happy to provide the tax administration all information that is needed to get the correct amount of tax, but to have to provide information that the company should or it would be really expensive for the companies to gather the information, and then if the tax administration doesn't even need it or have the resources to analyze it, then this should be talked about.
Okay, so progress but carefully. There is a question about R&D tax incentives too. You stressed that, and also Sara, before your presentation, stressed that you need to have sticks and carrots in a balanced way. So if the environmental taxes are on the raise, so you should introduce more R&D tax incentives to get more companies into developing climate solutions, climate-friendly solutions. In the morning presentation, we heard Professor Jeffrey Owens saying that tax incentives are never effective, don't introduce them. So what is your view on this, about R&D tax incentives? I know that Finland just approved a new law about it. Am I correct? So what about these critics that tax incentives are never effective? How would you respond to this?
I disagree. No, I feel that these tools to help companies to take the risk to invest in something that is too risky for them to invest in otherwise. I think that should be supported. And tax incentives are a good way. We of course, we need many tools. But tax incentives for R&D, there is this ETLA, so this research institute or something, and they are doing research on how the R&D investments or the incentives, tax incentives are working. And their preliminary results are that they are working, and for especially on SMEs, okay. That it was the R&D in investments did increase, and also patents. So there is a clear sign or proof that they are working. And these are based on just like results from 2020, 2021, so really recent research. So I do not agree. I do know that there are opinions back and forth, but I feel that there should be, the R&D investments should be supported, because without them, we will not reach the low carbon goals that all the countries and EU have set.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just a last note that you mentioned that the Finnish technology industry could increase exports by 30 billion euros. That's about a size of Estonian GDP. So, but Finland is 5 times larger than us, so perhaps we should divide it by 5 and then get our target out of it. Thank you so much, Maria. This was very helpful to us and a very forward-looking platform you've got. Thank you. And great.
So
thank you joining us and have a nice day.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.